Picture a Michelin star chef. Now just imagine taking that master chef, paying them their massive premium salary, and forcing them to stand at a sink to wash dishes for 8 hours a day.
Right. It sounds totally insane.
It really does. Yet that is exactly what, thousands of businesses are doing with their absolute most expensive talent right now. Welcome to the C9 Podcast Show. I am your host, Lex, and I am incredibly thrilled to kick off today's deep dive.
And I am Vera, your resident expert. I just want to give a massive welcome to our regular C9 followers tuning in today, and a very special welcome to the Australian business owners and C-level executives joining us. We have a truly fascinating discussion ahead.
We absolutely do. So today's mission is cracking open the project archives and real-world success stories from C9.
Right. We're looking directly at what industry leaders are calling the complexity crisis of 2026.
Exactly. Because if you look around the modern business landscape, you see these enterprises that look incredibly sleek on the surface.
Oh, for sure. But behind the curtain in the back office, It is just absolute chaos.
It really is. IT integration is still being treated by, way too many executives as just a simple technical checkbox. Just a matter of whether IT plugged one piece of software into another.
Which is an incredibly dangerous mindset to have, because integration isn't an IT chore, it's a fundamental financial strategy.
Absolutely.
The difference between a fragmented tech stack and a fully integrated bespoke digital ecosystem is literally the difference between a business scaling gracefully or, collapsing under the weight of its own administrative burden.
Yeah, and the root cause of this crisis really comes down to what happens when a business scales up. You buy an ERP to handle finance, then you adopt a CRM for sales.
And then maybe you throw in a specialized legacy database to handle warehouse inventory.
Right. And these tools were built by entirely different companies in completely different eras. They were never designed to speak the same language. So what happens? The data just gets trapped in silos.
And when data is trapped, operations basically grind to a halt. This creates a very specific, literal problem in Australian offices every single day. It's the dreaded swivel-chair epidemic.
Oh, the swivel chair. I love that term.
Right. Just imagine an employee sitting at their desk, looking at an invoice on their left monitor inside the ERP, and then literally physically swiveling their chair to manually retype those exact same numbers into a billing portal on their right monitor.
It is completely mind-numbing. And beyond just being a really frustrating way to work, the hidden costs of this swivel chair dynamic are actively destroying profit margins, right?
Absolutely. When we break down the case files, there are three really devastating financial leaks here. The first is exactly what we opened the show with, the labor leak.
The chef washing dishes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are paying highly competitive Australian corporate salaries to really smart, capable people, and you're basically using them for low-value copy and paste data entry.
It's just a massive misallocation of human capital.
It is. But right on the heels of the labor leak is the error rate. And this is crucial to understand mechanically. When you rely on manual data entry, human error isn't just a possibility.
It's an inevitability.
Yes, statistically, it is an absolute inevitability. It's really just a matter of time. A slipped finger on a keyboard means a decimal point moves one spot to the left.
Oof. Yeah, suddenly a $50,000 invoice becomes $5,000.
Exactly. And that leads to shipping mistakes, massive billing disputes with major clients, and just a total erosion of trust.
Not to mention the sheer amount of time it takes to hunt down where that decimal point went missing in a 1,000-line spreadsheet.
Oh, finding a needle in a haystack. But the third cost is the one that really keeps executives up at night. The latency gap.
A silent killer.
It really is. When your systems aren't talking to each other in real time, your leadership team is basically making critical multi-million-dollar decisions based on an illusion.
Right, because if the executive team is looking at an end-of-week report that was manually collated on a Friday afternoon, they are steering the ship based on Monday's reality.
Exactly. By the time they look at the numbers, the market has already entirely shifted. You just cannot be an agile business if your data has a 5-day lag time.
Totally. But let's look at how businesses typically try to solve this, because I know exactly what a lot of executives are thinking right now.
Oh, I'm sure they're thinking, I know my systems don't talk, so I'll just go online and buy one of those generic off-the-shelf software connectors.
Exactly. There is a massive market for these IPS tools, integration platform as a service. You pay a monthly subscription, you tell it to connect app A to app B, and it seems like a quick silver bullet fix.
But it is such a massive operational trap. I mean, those off-the-shelf connectors might be perfectly fine for a small startup moving a dozen emails a day, but when you deploy them at an enterprise level, you get hit with what we call the middleware tax.
Let's break down exactly how that tax works mechanically, because it's a fundamental shift from owning your infrastructure to renting it.
Right. With a standard middleware subscription, you are paying a perpetual monthly fee that scales based on usage. They charge you per transaction or per megabyte of data moved.
So ironically, as your business grows and processes more data, your IT costs just artificially skyrocket. You're basically paying a toll every single time a drop of water moves through the pipe.
Exactly. You trap yourself in a massive OpEx, an operating expense black hole, instead of investing in a CapEx asset you actually own.
And the financial cost of that middleware tax isn't even the most dangerous part, is it?
Not at all. It comes back to the latency gap in security. Think about the architecture of a generic connector. To move data from your ERP to your CRM, that data has to leave your internal network, hop onto the third-party middleware provider server, be processed, and then get sent back down to your CRM.
So you're adding latency, and you're severely limiting the sheer volume of data you can move at once because you're sharing that generic pipe with thousands of other companies.
Right. It's the difference between riding a crowded public bus that makes 50 stops versus building your own private, high-speed bullet train directly from your house to your office.
I love that analogy. And that public bus introduces a catastrophic security vulnerability, especially right now. I mean, with the tightening of the Australian Privacy Act 2024 amendments, data sovereignty is no longer a nice-to-have feature.
It is a strict legal mandate. If you are relying on a generic third-party connector, there is a really high probability that your highly sensitive business data, financial records, customer details, employee information,
All bouncing through a server sitting in an entirely different country before it lands back in your system.
Exactly, which means you have zero control over that middleman's security protocols. You're taking on a massive compliance and breach risk.
Which brings us to the actual cure. Relying on rented band-aids is out. To fix the complexity crisis, an enterprise really needs direct API integration.
Absolutely.
Now, for the listener who isn't deep in software engineering, an API, an application programming interface, is essentially the digital handshake that allows two entirely different systems to share information securely.
Right, but here is where C9's approach fundamentally differs from everything we just discussed. They don't rent you a seat on the public bus.
No, they specialize in building custom API hooks and direct data pipes. They look at the unique architecture of your specific ERP and your specific CRM, and they code a bespoke direct bridge between them.
Point A to point B, no detours, no third-party servers, no middleman. Because it's a direct connection sitting within your own controlled environment, the communication is absolutely instantaneous.
It's highly secure, it's infinitely scalable, and to the relief of every CFO listening, there are zero per transaction toll fees. You own the infrastructure.
And that shift from renting to owning fundamentally changes how a business operates. But let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. Because it's easy to talk about moving sales data, but what happens when the stakes are literally life and death?
That is exactly where I wanted to go next. Let's dig into the Monash Health and Health case study from the C9 archives, because this perfectly illustrates why off-the-shelf connectors fail in complex environments.
Right. Monash Health came to C9 after a previous integration project by entirely different developers completely failed. They were facing this massive administrative bottleneck.
Yeah, they were basically drowning in incoming faxes and HL7 messages.
And for anyone outside the medical or health tech fields, HL7, Health Level 7, is the global standard for transferring electronic health records.
And it is incredibly dense, highly complex, and notoriously difficult to parse, right?
Oh, absolutely. These weren't just simple text emails. These were massive strings of unstructured clinical data containing highly confidential specialist referrals.
Just picture the physical reality of that for a second. You have complex digital data strings piling up alongside physical faxes. The admin staff were having to read these unstructured messages, decipher the clinical requirements, and then manually type the patient details and referral notes into the hospital's database.
The clinical risk there is astronomical. If a staff member mistypes a patient's priority level or a fax gets physically lost on a desk, a critical patient doesn't get seen.
So C9 stepped in and engineered OSA triage. Mechanically, this was just a brilliant piece of custom architecture.
It really was. They built data extraction agents that sat right on site. Instead of relying on a human to read the HL7 message, the custom API acted as a digital triage nurse.
Wow.
It instantly parsed the unstructured data, identified the critical fields like patient name, condition, priority, and mapped them directly into the hospital's structured database.
Zero human hands needed to physically retype the patient's details. A referral goes from being hit send by a local GP to being instantly processed, categorized, and assigned at the hospital.
And the executive insight here is profound. By automating that data flow, they didn't just save money on admin costs. They eliminated the clinical risk of dropped referrals and dramatically sped up patient care delivery.
It's just a flawless example of back-end architecture directly improving human lives.
It really is a phenomenal outcome. But the complexity of integration takes on a whole new dimension when the data isn't just stuck in a messy format, but is physically trapped on the other side of the planet.
Yes. Let's look at the Atkins Global Project, the multinational geographic challenge. Atkins Global is a massive engineering resource manager, and they had a local Australian team that really needed agility.
Right. They needed to generate real-time reporting, manage complex billing, and run profit and loss analysis on a daily basis.
But the problem was their master ERP was a highly complex legacy J.D. Edwards system physically located in the United Kingdom.
Talk about a latency gap. If an employee in Sydney tries to run a heavy data query against a legacy database 10,000 miles away in London, the system's going to time out, or it's going to take hours to compile.
Exactly. And the standard corporate reaction to this is usually to panic and say, we need to rip out the entire global ERP and start from scratch.
Which costs tens of millions of dollars and takes 5 years.
Right. But C9 proved you don't need to replace the legacy system. You just need to build a smarter bridge to it. They engineered a custom portal specifically for the Australian team.
Yeah, they use direct APIs to send hyper-efficient micro requests across the globe.
By using intelligent caching and targeted API calls, the local portal didn't try to download the entire UK database. It only asked the J.D. Edwards system for the exact calculations it needed in that exact millisecond.
It bridged the globe seamlessly. Suddenly, the Australian branch had the operational speed of a nimble, local tech startup while still leveraging the massive secure data power of their global enterprise.
And the archives show a really similar approach with K2 partnering, where C9 developed a custom SAP add-on to automate incredibly tedious end-of-month financial reconciliations.
They built an elegant layer over a massive legacy system.
But let's push the boundaries here. It's one thing to connect a local hospital or build a bridge between Sydney and London. What happens when the business isn't in an office at all?
Oh, you mean like industries where the assets are constantly moving down a highway or businesses operating in muddy fields?
Exactly. How does that work?
Well, that is where the engineering gets really creative and honestly where some of the biggest returns on investment are found.
Okay.
Let's look at the education and logistics sector.
Okay, sure.
C9 took on a project for OneSchool Global. They needed a national transport management system to track student transit across their entire bus network.
Now, mechanically, you can't just plug an Ethernet cable into a bus doing 80 kilometers an hour down a rural highway. And you can't rely on a heavy data connection because cellular service drops in and out.
Precisely. So C9 designed what is known as a closed-loop integration. They installed IoT, Internet of Things tablets, directly inside the vehicles. Now, from an architectural standpoint, they couldn't use heavy data protocols. They utilized lightweight REST APIs. These APIs are designed to take tiny packets of data, like a GPS coordinate and a student check-in ping, and fire them off instantly to a central administrative cloud portal whenever a connection is available.
Which means the school administration has total real-time operational transparency.
Exactly. And that cloud portal uses another set of custom APIs to instantly push that data down to a dedicated parent smartphone app.
So the data moves from a moving vehicle to the cloud to a parent's pocket in seconds, ensuring student safety without a single human having to radio in a location. I mean, that is just brilliant engineering.
It really is. And you mentioned industries operating in muddy fields. Let's talk about the agricultural sector. The C9 archives highlight their work with Webster Ltd., which is actually the third oldest company in Australia.
Wow, so they were dealing with some deeply entrenched legacy workflows.
Oh, absolutely. They manage massive agricultural exports, specifically focusing on walnuts and onions. We're talking about tracking physical produce from a farm through a processing plant and all the way to an international export dock.
And in the world of global agricultural export, compliance and traceability are basically everything. You cannot afford to guess the origin of a batch of walnuts.
No, definitely not. If there is a quality control issue, you need to know exactly which field it came from, on what day, and how it was processed. Relying on paper trails or manual data entry across different facilities makes that level of traceability completely impossible.
So C9 completely replaced their disjointed legacy methods with a fully integrated production management system. They captured data at the source, right there in the field, and integrated it directly into the processing and logistics chains.
Mechanically, they created an unalterable data lineage. They built a single source of truth.
The business implication of that is massive. It takes export compliance, which is usually a massive administrative headache, and turns it into a competitive advantage. Having an automated, perfectly integrated record of a product's journey from soil to ship is exactly what major global buyers demand.
Exactly. And I want to touch on one more quick example from the media industry just to show how versatile this is.
Yeah, grant broadcasters.
Right.
Right.
They had a major issue managing sales performance across entirely separate SQL databases in different geographic regions. The daily reality was a morning rush where staff would come in early, frantically run manual exports from each database.
Ugh, the swivel chair strikes again.
Exactly. They'd paste them into massive spreadsheets, just trying to prep the national revenue data before the executives even arrived. It was the latency gap and the labor leak combined.
So C9 solved this by implementing a nightly data syncing process via automated web services, meaning the system does the heavy lifting while the staff are asleep.
Right. Every single morning, the executive team logs in and has a unified, perfect view of national revenue and forecasting. They start their day actually analyzing insights rather than waiting for administration to finish copying and pasting.
Which perfectly leads us into the elephant in the boardroom for 2026. Because every single C-level executive right now has a mandate from their board to ensure AI readiness.
Oh, everybody wants to implement artificial intelligence and robotic process automation right now.
Right, but how does this foundational data integration actually connect to advanced AI? Because there is a massive misconception in the business world right now. Executives are spending millions on AI licenses thinking the AI will magically fix their operations.
Right, but here is the hard mechanical truth. Artificial intelligence is just an engine. And an engine needs fuel. Data is that fuel.
Exactly. If your enterprise's data is fragmented, unstructured, and trapped in isolated silos, that AI engine will basically starve.
It is the ultimate case of garbage in, garbage out. Or in a siloed business, nothing in, nothing out. An AI model or an automated bot cannot analyze a PDF invoice that is trapped in an employee's local inbox.
And it can't cross-reference a legacy CRM if there's no API bridge allowing it access. Investing in AI without first investing in direct API integration is completely useless.
When a business partners with C9 to build these custom data pipes, they aren't just solving today's swivel chair problem. They are laying down the foundational infrastructure for tomorrow. They're building a digital nervous system.
I love that phrase, digital nervous system. They're connecting all the disparate limbs of the business, sales, logistics, finance, directly to the brain.
Exactly. Once that nervous system is active, you can plug an AI into it, and suddenly the AI can actually see the entire business in real time. That is how you outpace competitors who are still manually moving files around.
So a crucial question for the executives listening who recognize these symptoms in their own business. How does a transition actually happen? If you are suffering from a fragmented tech stack, how does C9 bring you on board without causing massive disruption to your daily operations?
It's a great question, because risk mitigation is the top priority for any C-level leader. The C9 customer journey is specifically designed to eliminate that risk.
Because it absolutely does not start with developers writing code and breaking things.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. It starts with an integration audit. C9 maps out your entire business process to find exactly where the data is getting mathematically stuck. They find the bottlenecks before they ever touch a pipe.
And once the audit is complete, they move to architecture design. And this is where their expertise really shines, because they match the mechanics to the specific business need.
Right. As we mentioned earlier, if you are a logistics company tracking moving vehicles, they'll design lightweight JSON or REST APIs for speed. But if you are a medical or financial institution moving heavy, sensitive data, they might utilize a robust SOP architecture for maximum stability.
And naturally, security hardening is woven into every step of that architecture. We talked about the Privacy Act earlier. For clients dealing with highly confidential data, like the financial integration C9 bills for companies like Ulend or the medical data at Monash Health, they implement military-grade protocols.
We are talking mandatory two-factor and multi-factor authentication and impenetrable end-to-end encryption. The core philosophy is that your data is significantly safer traveling inside a C9 custom integration tunnel than it is sitting anywhere else.
Finally, there is the deployment and managed services phase. And this is vital to understand from a long-term strategic perspective.
Yeah.
Software is not static. It's a living, breathing ecosystem.
Right. When major platforms like Xero, MYOB, Salesforce, or SAP roll out massive global updates, standard connectors often just break entirely.
Which leaves you stranded. But because C9 provides ongoing managed services, they actively monitor those external platform changes. They ensure your custom integrations are updated and hardened to survive platform shifts without a second of downtime.
They don't just build the bridge, they maintain the structural integrity of it forever.
Before we wrap up today, I want to address a frequently asked question that inevitably comes up during the integration audit phase.
Oh, the staff replacement question.
Yes, when executives start talking about total automation and eliminating the swivel chair process, the staff naturally get nervous. The question is, will these custom integrations replace my existing team?
It is a completely valid human fear, but from a strategic business perspective, the answer is a resounding no. This technology does not replace your staff. It replaces the robotic, mind-numbing parts of their jobs.
Think back to our Michelin chef at the sink. When you eliminate manual data entry, you are finally letting your chef actually cook. You empower your team.
Right. You free up their cognitive load so they can focus on proactive customer service, deep strategic analysis, and driving revenue growth. You are significantly elevating their roles and their value to the company, not eliminating them.
It shifts human effort from data administration to data utilization,
Yeah.
and that is where true enterprise growth happens.
Exactly.
So to you, the Australian business owners and C-level executives listening right now, if your staff are spending their days manually transferring information between screens, you have hit an artificial growth ceiling, but you do not have to accept that as the cost of doing business.
No, you definitely don't.
C9 is Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer company. They have the exact engineering blueprint to solve the complexity crisis for your specific industry.
I highly encourage you to take the first step and visit www.c9.com.au to book an integration audit. Let their engineers find exactly where your data is stuck.
It is the single most important investment you can make toward building a true digital nervous system for your enterprise.
Without a doubt.
And a quick reminder to everyone tuning in today, please make sure to click that follow button on your podcast platform so you never miss our future deep dives.
And more importantly, take a moment to share this deep dive with your business partners, your board members, or other executives in your network who are battling these exact same data silos.
This is the kind of mechanical knowledge that can genuinely transform an operations bottom line.
It absolutely can. And as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with a lingering question to ponder as you walk into your next board meeting.
Let's hear it.
Take a hard look at the key strategic decisions you made this week. Were they based on the real-time reality of your business, or were they based on a dangerous illusion created by yesterday's trapped data?
Oof. That is a heavy, essential question to ask yourself. A massive thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the truly connected enterprise. We will catch you next time.